Oh God. Terrible. Terrible.
Hey everyone. But and more iconic tune than what we get here, because this one doesn't understand what it's talking about.
Yeah.
It can't decide what tune it wants to. Anyway, hi everyone.
Hi.
Welcome to a very special Big Damn Cast. Why is it very special? Because we're not here. This is a pre-record one going out in a week where we can't record one for the week.
Yes.
So whatever current affair or news in pop culture you were expecting us to talk about, just pretend we're talking about it.
Yeah.
In 3, 2, 1. Oh my God, you remember that thing that happened with the stuff? And then there was the big thing, and then I can't believe they flashed another one. I mean, do you think after revealing his penis the first time, it wouldn't have done it again, would they? And there's the substance. Oh, just sift through that. Sift through that news. No, we're here as the host of a podcast about nerdy news, geeky gossip, and things fit to distract you before the inevitable demise of society. Wait, it's already happened. Well, we may as well stick with us now. We've come this far. We're here at the request, suggestion, behest, and satanic blood pact rights demanded it. To be fair, of one of our lovely listeners, Ian. Yeah. Ian a little while ago suggested that you've done retrospectives of like the Nolan Batman films and the Alien films, the Predator movies and stuff. Yeah. With New Mutants out in the world in some capacity, and neither of you likely to see it anytime soon, would you maybe think of a revisit of the X-Men franchise, the movie franchise? To which we went, are you fucking kidding? No, not happening. And then we realised we had gaps. So
I was well up for it. You were a bit more hesitant.
But that's because you're a masochist.
I'm a masochist, and I also love the X-Men, which is problematic when you talk about these movies.
Yeah, like your your enthusiasm will not be safe. Your fandom will not be safe. You will not be safe. It's been a while since I've watched these 3 in particular, and this isn't going to be part 1 of like a 4-week long thing. We're going to be dropping these from time to time because, ladies and gentlemen, don't know if you know, there's a shitload of these movies already. There's quite a few. I mean, in terms of the ones we're planned to cover, and this is minus New Mutants coming out on VOD or rent anytime soon. Yeah. There is at least 4 parts to this retrospective, at the very least. Beginning, as all good stories should do, with a sexual offender directing a movie. Wait, no, hang on, that's not how any story
actually
should begin.
A sexual offender directing 2 movies.
Yeah, oh God.
And then a prick directing the 3rd.
Oh God, I can't wait to get into that one. Jesus. Not the film. I found myself surprised by some of my thoughts on The Last Stand, revisiting it like maybe 12 years since I maybe last watched it.
Yeah, about the same
unless I've dipped into it. Because I bought the Blu-ray, I bought the Blu-ray quadrilogy in like 2012 for £12, I think it was, at HMV. I saw it and I was like, that's pretty good. And I enjoyed the first 2 X-Men a lot. I'll pick that up. And
that's what X-Men, X2, Last Stand, Wolverine, Origins Wolverine.
Yeah. All in American-sized Blu-ray cases. Because in America, their Blu-ray cases are like half the size of ours.
It's the only thing that is, really.
Yeah. That's the only thing they slimmed down on. 20 of our American listeners. We're right, aren't we? Anyway, so... like, Big Gulp is small. For you guys, to us, a big gulp looks like it should be an illegal measurement of liquid.
A big gulp is a tank of gasoline.
We don't put bacon and pancakes together because we think of them as completely separate meal types.
I put bacon and pancakes together, thank you very much. I don't put bacon and crepes together, but bacon and big fluffy pancakes, they go together.
Have you ever had grits?
I've never had grits.
Don't have grits.
It doesn't sound like a thing I want. It sounds like some kind of health condition.
Right, well, if I said to you, so it's a breakfast food, and it's called grits, what comes to mind?
like sand. Sand. It's like sandy gravy.
No, but you're thinking of something like, maybe crispy, maybe shredded, or
yeah.
Nah, it's just gritty porridge.
Why is it gritty? Why is the porridge gritty?
I don't know. It's gritty porridge, and you eat it alongside your bacon and your eggs, and I don't understand it, and I never will. And last time we were in Florida, my dad, it was his first time there. He was like, "Oh, you've got to try these grits," and I went, "I think I've had them before, but I can't remember why I haven't had them again." And he was like, "Try some," and I did, and I went, "This is the worst thing to ever happen to my tonsils."
Do yourself a favour, go to Canada and get poutine instead.
Oh, poutine. Poutine, that's the one where it's fries covered in stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yes, well, there we go. Over here, we call that fries covered in stuff.
Cheese curds and gravy.
Oh, so basically Canada are just doing what we do on at 1 a.m. on a Saturday, crawling back from the pub. Just like,
but with more maple syrup.
Give us some chips and cheese, please. Put some fucking gravy on it.
I went through the Tim Hortons drive-thru yesterday and got a iced French vanilla, and I saw that it was good.
Okay, I know that we have to socially distance and we can't physically see each other, but if you were to go to Tim Hortons on my behalf, put that thing at the end of the driveway, honk a horn, and then speed away, I wouldn't be mad. Anyway,
French
for those who don't know
for the win.
Who the fuck we are, my name is Chris. We are the future Charles, not them, Johnson.
My name is Matthew. My real name is Pyro.
Brilliant. Oh my god, brilliant.
What's your real name, John?
Quite a talent you have there, Matthew, for drinking. What was it, vanilla? What are you drinking right now? You're drinking a cold coffee.
This is a caramel flavour cafe latte from Asda.
Is that what that's?
Iced in a carton.
Carton of frozen dreams. We really should cure coronavirus so we can have Charlie with us for these episodes, because his Mckellen is on point.
It is on point.
And I think should we ever get to the point where an X-Men episode, an X-Men episode crosses over into a safe condition to be able to do it, we should, Charles, if you're listening, hello, lovely man, we should hire you to basically just sit here and occasionally interject in character as Magneto, but not with anything to do with the movies, just sort of with really banal questions like, is this going to take much longer? I need to go for a piss.
We might be able to get him for Doff. If we...
For what? For...
Doff.
Doftper?
Doff.
Is that Days of Future Past?
Doffper. Doff.
Well, there's still time. I suppose that's the next appearance of that. I guess. See, that's something I've only just realised as you're saying that. What we've just watched this week, because we have, in case you can't tell from the thumbnail, the caption, we're covering the original trilogy this week and nothing more.
X-Men, X2, X-Men United, and X-Men The Last Stand.
We've watched nearly everything McKellen does in this franchise now.
Yes.
It's weird, because you think of him as synonymous with it, and yet he's only in the first, the first quarter. If we're counting all the movies we're going to be talking about, he's in the first quarter of this franchise.
But I think he makes such an impression because he is iconic in all three of those films, even when the films themselves aren't. And slightly American, yeah.
Which I really appreciate, because they established very early on that Magneto is Polish, but has travelled. And in this, he's sort of McKellen, but he's got that American twang to his voice. Well, Stuart's just Stuart.
I imagine he was naturalised in America post-World War II. Although that is, of course, contradicted by later films. But we won't get into that!
Yeah, so we're not going to talk... For anyone who's like, but hang on, how does the first class continuity tie in? And we will talk about that.
We'll get to that.
When we get to it. We are going to look at these from the perspective purely of the films as they would be in their own little...
Yeah, we're looking at this trilogy as a trilogy. We're not worrying about the other X-Men stuff yet. Right. We'll get there. We'll get there.
There will be worry. We might have to get Keeks on for one episode as well.
Oh, we were going at each other over X3 last night, but we'll talk about that later.
It's so frustrating. I completely get her anger, but I think I'm starting to.
I was the angry one.
Oh, okay. Well, no, I know her main furor is with the next phase of the franchise.
Yeah.
Like, I think I've slowly, for a long time listeners for the show might remember, your philosophy on these movies is, if they don't care, why should you?
Yeah, and it's clear, at least by
moved
X3,
into that
they
camp a
don't
bit more.
care.
Oh yeah. Oh, zero shits are given to maintain a continuity, or even as I was kind of shocked to realize watching these movies this week, even any sense of character arc or development for principal cast members.
All of that goes out in the window by the third film. But again, we'll start at the beginning.
I was amazed to find out at least one character has no development at all in any of the movies, but we love them because the character's iconic, not the performance, and the actor or actress was massive at the time.
What?
But we'll get into that, because
what?
All I'm saying is, we'll get to it. So, the landscape, 2000, the year's 2000. I did not see this movie in the cinemas, even though I was 9 and going to the cinema from time to time.
I remember winning tickets for like a screening that was like a day early or something. So I saw it like a day early and got, as part of a little goodie bag, like a X-Men movie, like comic, and a pack of like CCG cards for a CCG based on the aesthetics of the X-Men movie. So it had that aesthetics, but it had like Gambit and Colossus and stuff in it as well.
Yeah.
That's so. When I was a big X-Men, I was always a big X-Men fan because X-Men is what got me into like American style comics through the Essential X-Men reprint title over here. So I was subscribing to that at the time, and they were reprinting stuff that was like pre-Age of Apocalypse. So we're talking like 2000. It was reprinting stuff from like 95, 96. Mm-hmm. No, 95, 96. Oh, post-Age of Apocalypse it would have been. So yeah, 95, 96-ish.
Yeah, because the UK reprint mags were mostly focusing on like they started to come out and reprint Heroes Reborn, didn't they? That was their like.
Oh no, they started before that. That was when I first started getting Essential X-Men. It was reprinting, and this was like 94, 95. It was reprinting like the end of Fatal Attractions into the Phalanx Covenant, and then it would have gone into Age of Apocalypse, but then I dropped it, and then when I picked it back up, it was just post Onslaught.
Yeah.
And then a couple of months after that, they launched the first Avengers collection on the back of Heroes Reborn. So you got Avengers United.
What was the Avengers mag called?
That was it. Avengers United. But there's loads of these. Avengers United, Avengers Unconquered was one of them. And of course, Astonishing Spider-Man was the Spider-Man sort of companion to this. But that was my gateway into regular comics. So I was reading Essential X-Men at the time. So I was deep into that world. But of course, because of the era of comics I was reading, it was Cyclops Storm, Jean Grey, Bone Claws Wolverine, Gambit...
No-Nose Bone Claws?
Yeah, No-Nose Bone Claws Wolverine, Gambit, Colossus, Rogue, Nightcrawler?
Bishop, yeah.
Nightcrawler was kind of sidelined. And it was also around the time that they introduced, like, the newer team of X-Men on the back of Onslaught. So it was Cecilia Reyes, Maggot, Marrow.
Oh, Maggot,
that team. So that was the kind of era of X-Men I was sort of reading at the time. And then the buzz around the movie came out. I went to go see the movie. And at the time, I really liked it. There was things I want, like, of course, being, 2000, so I was 12. I was like, you know what? I want more Gambit. because that's who wants Gambit. They want 12-year-olds who want Gambit. And
they want Cajun face sock man throwing cards and having a hero coat.
And now that I've grown up and I'm an adult, I'm realised no one ever wanted Gambit.
We all wanted Rogue, but unfortunately Rogue came with Gambit for the majority of the 90s.
Well, yeah. But not in this film. So this is a very sort of stripped down approach to the X-Men. A lot of the colours stripped out, and it just takes bits from various X-Men storylines. It's Wolverine meeting up with Rogue and developing a relationship, along the lines of his sort of mentorship of characters like Kitty Pryde and Jubilee in the comics. It's them joining the X-Men. It's the X-Men going up against the Brotherhood openly for sort of the first time, although it's implied that there's a lot of stuff we haven't seen. So the X-Men are already established, Xavier School's already established, and we're using Wolverine and Rogue as a sort of audience surrogate entry point into this world of black leather-clad paramilitary mutant operatives and evil Magneto and his team of evil mutants. They hatch a plan to use a machine somehow to turn people into mutants to stop anti-mutant sentiment. And then
the only explanation you kind of get for how they're able to create a machine that can broadcast a mutant's power or the mutant genome is the throwaway mention that Magneto helped build Cerebro.
Yeah.
So that's the film's way of going, he's smart, and then it just kind of moves on.
And it basically ends up, there's a big showdown on Ellis Island in the Statue of Liberty. The X-Men destroy the machine. Magneto's defeated and imprisoned. Save the day. But some of the evil mutants are still out there. This is not bad by the standards of the time. I think I've talked before about
fine.
There's a sort of trio of films that helped pave the way for the current superhero wave. And it started in 97 with Blade, of like plucking an obscure character from comics, retooling him for the screen, and making a real success out of it. It's a hell of a movie.
I think you described it the other day as it's a horror movie and they put Blade in it.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Then they took X-Men, where they filed off the wackier aesthetics from X-Men, but not the wackier concepts, just the aesthetics. Married it to Blade's look, and then made that, and that was successful. And then with Spider-Man in 2002, then they make it so it is more colourful,
it dips a toe
more fun.
in the goofy pond ever so slightly. It's still too scared. It's still too scared overall because that was the movies at the time, and it was about easing see Goblin mech suit.
Yeah.
See incredibly detailed Spider-Man costume that looks very expensive. There's still baby steps there.
I think they did push it a bit more into the comic book realm with Spider-Man 2, if for no other reason than the fact that there's a bank heist with big bags of gold coins, which I fucking love!
And a montage of Peter skipping around to raindrops keep falling on my head, just embracing that this is a cartoon world, even if it still looks kind of stylish and very expensive.
So this first X-Men film and the rest that follow in this trilogy are kind of in the middle ground of that sort of spectrum. And
I think again, we'll go into each individual, but X-Men is plays it safe.
Yeah.
X-Men 2 stretches itself and shows off a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then X-Men 3 kind of forgets that it still looks the same as the previous two, but starts to act dafter and bigger and weirder in some respects, and it sort of shits the bed.
But in ways that don't work as well, which I think we'll get to.
Yeah.
But the first thing that will strike you, I think, about this X-Men movie...
Striker.
Hey! No, he comes to the second one. Is that the cast is incredible. At the time...
And Halle Berry.
Hey! At the
Halle
time,
Berry is a fantastic actor, but she's out of this cast list, which we're about to tuck into. She's the only big name actor who really doesn't do anything with the part she's been given.
No.
At all.
No.
She's just sort of there, and it's partially the script's fault, really, but
I would argue it's mostly the script's fault.
But I mean, looking at the Brotherhood, Tyler Mane as Sabretooth, it's a very, again, basic version of the character. He's just the muscle, he's the grunt, he's there to look scary, but like he feels intimidating, he feels creepy.
If there's a flaw with the characters in this movie, it's that they use like iconic characters but don't do anything with them. And I think Sabretooth is the perfect encapsulation of that.
Mystique's the example of them getting it right. Like taking a character who's known for, you know, like being deceptive, being like sort of 5 steps ahead of everyone else because she's laid a trap, and also the creepiness inherent to someone just taking your face and looking like you in front of you. Like they really make that work. And Rebecca Romijn, and as she was at the time, Rebecca Romijn Stamos, like absolutely nails it.
Yeah, she's brilliant in all of these films, and.
She's the MVP.
Yeah,
she's the MVP
because so much of it is a non-vocal performance through makeup.
Yeah,
and I think people overlook it because they're like, "Oh, it's just blue boobs, bluebies," and I think that's a bit of a dismissive attitude to take because I think she really does sort of exude this sort of menace and glee. Like she takes pleasure in being scary and threatening.
Yeah. And I get the lack of recurring costume as well, like having her look like a chameleon all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I get it because they really establish in, you know, she's a character of few words, but she's a character of few words that they really make count.
Yeah.
That she's very much like, I shouldn't have to disguise myself. So any opportunity where she is not infiltrating somewhere, she is naked, she is blue, she is scaly, she doesn't give a shit because she's like, this is what I am. Like, why the hell should I be hiding this away? So it doesn't feel... I know, obviously, I remember, like, I know me growing up, people would always make jokes about it. Be like, oh, the sexy blue lady. But it's like, when you watch the movie, it doesn't feel gratuitous. At no point does it feel like they're going, eh? But that might also have to do with the eye behind the camera and kind of where
they were looking.
That gaze is going. We will talk about that individual eventually, don't worry.
Mystique is a good example in these films of how the design work is good, where they take the comic book design and tweak it to work in live action, and it works really well. The rest of the characters, I'm not so sure about. Who else have we got in here?
Toad?
Ray Parker's Toad, again. Not much to do, but he seems like he's having a bit of fun with it. It's a nice. Yeah. He's mainly known as was at the time mainly known as a stunt performer. So it was very much in that mode. It's a physical performance, but quite fun. Who else is on the Brotherhood that isn't Magneto?
Just those. Yeah, it's a Brotherhood of 4 in this movie.
That's it. Magneto, Ian McKellen, absolutely iconic. Iconic character, iconically portrayed. He's brilliant. The script
and
is...
our opening character, like for the fact that it's a Wolverine and Rogue movie, Magneto's our opening perspective.
We see the flashback with the
concentration camp and the.
We get the narration from Professor Xavier first, though we don't know that's Professor Xavier.
Mutants.
Yes.
So natural. It's evolution. It is the next stage, and that's not terrifying, but some people think it is, and it's like, oh, da 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 da.
But because he's opposite Patrick Stewart, with Ian McKellen he's opposite Patrick Stewart as Xavier. That first conversation you get with them as adults, after you get the flashback to it's Auschwitz with where he pulls the gate apart. It's a concentration camp.
So, yeah. It's concentration camp, and he rips the gate and gets beaten up by the guards, and it's like, oh my god.
As a teenager. And then
it fully establishes this is why he thinks the way he does about this world. Like, you are not going to change Eric Lensch's mind about humanity being the enemy here. Yeah. Like, look at how he was treated because of his religion, because of where he came from, and then because of his powers and what it did to his family. It's like, they establish so well in that opening who Magneto is and why Magneto is who
and then carrying that through into the first conversation between him and Xavier after the info dump that we get from Famke Janssen's Jean Grey with
who is a representative for mutant relations.
I like that they make Jean Grey a doctor in this, like a scientist.
I enjoyed that a lot.
She's a researcher into mutation. Originally in the script it was Hank.
But who who then is in the second one in a throwaway cameo.
Yes.
And then they
and major character in the third one.
In the third, yeah.
So it was originally Hank, but then they cut down the characters in the script and they gave the sort of scientific background to Jean, which I think helps round her out as a character. I think that's probably one of the best decisions they made in the entire trilogy.
And there's also like Senator Kelly alludes later on to the fact that it's not known outwardly that Jean is a mutant herself, but like he's figured it out. Like
I think it's suspected. Yeah, Bruce Davidson is great as Senator Kelly. Again, another
he's excellent in this
comics character who is basically a mutant skeptic senator who wants them to be registered and controlled. I don't think it's. He's an anti-gay marriage legislation. Yeah,
but I think they do a good.
Essentially, I think they do a good job of not making him mustache twirly evil. Like he seems like a man who has genuine misguided concerns and certainly a bigoted viewpoint, but he's acting more out of fear than of hatred. He's made a decision about mutants without actually talking to a mutant to get their perspective.
Exactly. Much like any anti-gay movement. And like it's because that was a strong core of why I think this film has aged quite well, because there are still battles for minorities and people in persecuted groups happening right now, and this movie doesn't treat the mutant thing as like. I think it helps that this movie isn't just like, we're going to send giant purple robots out to capture the mutants. And it's more like government discussions and setting up laws and debates about whether or not it's ethical to have a mutant child in a school with non-mutant children and all this.
Yeah.
It hits very close to home still, which is upsetting when you think about it, but also like it's put the film in a way that I think even people who hadn't ever seen anything X-Men before this would go, oh, I get it. Right, okay, I get what the deal is with like mutants and mutant society in a modern or not too distant future day Earth.
I think that's why the X-Men franchise has become so enduring, and not even in film, but like as a comic book, is because it has been so, the sort of idea of mutants has been so applicable, rightly or wrongly, to things like race relations, to homosexuality and gay rights, to, in more modern days, things like the trans people's experience, I should say. I think it's
that's something the director talks about on the behind the scenes. Like he talks about that was his his angle.
Brian Singer as a gay man and alleged rapist.
Every time we say his name, we need to just hawk up into a spittoon. So not
that the two are related, I might add.
No.
Being a gay man does not mean that he was an alleged rapist. Him being an alleged rapist means that he was an alleged rapist.
Him using his position of power to prey multiple times on young male performers and interns and runners and lighting people. Yeah. That's what makes him.
We're not Kevin Spacey here. We're not trying to throw gay men under the bus. Because there are sexual predators out there.
Weird that those two made a movie together, isn't it? Really,
I know, right?
Weird. Yeah.
So
two movies together. And also, shit! Oh, I didn't even realize till just. Okay, that's creepy.
And also in the cast, you've got Ian McKellen, who is a very prominent figure in the gay rights movement, as you know, a member of Stonewall and very outspoken proponent for gay rights.
He talks again in the behind the scenes about like that was the hook for him. Like he remembered the comics, he remembered enjoying them when he was younger, but he hadn't really thought about it much since he'd grown up and stopped, not been picking them up from the newsagent when he was little. And then that was the pitch made to him. It was like, this is a story about like misguided opinions and how harmful it can be to a minority and to a persecuted group of people. And he just clicked. And he says at the behind the scenes like, it's a story that is happening now still, just without the flying and the flashing and everything. Like it's still happening and it's an important story. And even to play the viewpoint that I would never in a million years get behind. Is still important because it's there to highlight the good and the right way to do things is by being in opposition to it.
And I think that's part of the joy of having such a great cast in this movie is having that come through in that opening conversation that early conversation between Xavier and Magneto, is that sense of history between these two men and the sense of where they stand on the issue before you even really understand the issue as an audience, getting those lines drawn straight away. And I think that's really where the movie benefits from casting two such powerhouse performers.
Because Patrick Stewart was like Wizard Magazine's most speculated, if they did the X-Men movie, here's who should play Xavier for like all the 90s. Throughout the 90s, whenever those articles would pop up. And because that's what used to happen, kids. Magazines would go, hey, imagine if they cast such a body in a movie.
And Peachtree being Peachtree, he would be like, yeah, all right, why the hell not?
Bring the dump truck of money to Patrick Stewart's driveway. All right, here it comes. It's like, let's go. He's like you say, it's a powerhouse performance. That conversation kind of sets a bar because it's what 5 minutes into the movie.
Yeah,
you're
something like that.
Is this what this comic book movie? Keep in mind when this film came out, adults had seen Blade because it was an 18 certificate. It was an R-rated movie. NC-17, I think actually in America it was definitely like a high violence, high gore level. So no kids were watching Blade. Comic book movies as far as the same. Comic book movies as far as the world were concerned at this point in time, the last one that was on everyone's mind was Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
As far as like big, successful but notoriously bad movies. So, like for this to be the first 5 minutes to be concentration camp flashback, succinct kind of exposition dump, with sort of the Jean Grey addressing the UN and everything, and Senator Kelly and whatnot, and then Stewart and McKellen, two actors who knew each other in real life but had not worked together at this point.
Always wanted to, but never had. And
they finally get to do it, and this is the first scene you're seeing of them playing off against each other in anything.
And it's electric, it's brilliant.
And that's the opening 5 minutes of your movie, you're like, shit, this can be good.
And it's really...
this can be good.
It's really brilliantly shot as well, like that first moment where it's sort of... McKellen half out of frame and but in focus
with that hat like sort of lining up with the letterboxing and everything, and
the soft focus Xavier in the background. That's a wonderful shot, and it kind of sets the stage for what's to come. Although I don't think the movie really delivers on a lot of that, and the sequel. The movie, this first one's biggest crime is it kind of. It nerfs Xavier so that his students, his protégés, can obviously step up and do the right thing. You can see why they take him out of the story as the third act ramps up. But the most compelling part of the film, outside of Logan and Marie's like kind of shared journey into this world they didn't realize existed, is the Xavier and Lensha dynamic. Yeah.
So to suddenly take Xavier out of it, you're like, oh,
we don't really get it again. We get a little bit of it when he's talking through Toad and Sabretooth at the train station, and again, that's really nicely shot. The way that you'll start a sentence.
Yeah, you're right. That's the last time those two characters interact in the film. Wow, I didn't even realize. Sorry, go on.
He'll have him start a sentence and then cut to Tyler Mane or Ray Park finishing the sentence, and that is
really well done.
That whole sequence, actually, the whole train station sequence is really neat. There's a lot of neat stuff in this movie.
Magneto as well, showing a moment of restraint almost, where he fires the gun at the police officer, but then he holds the bullet.
Yeah. Well, he holds it, but it's still boring into his head very slowly. Which,
he's like, I don't think I can hold them all, Charles. Like, basically just saying, like, I'm going to fire all these guns. If people die, it's your fault, so you better let me go. And it's like, oh. Whereas, like, by the third movie, he would have just shot everybody. He wouldn't have given a shit.
Well, character development.
Or devolving. Well, we'll get to that. But speaking of characters, a couple of casts we've not mentioned yet. James Marsden as Cyclops,
criminally underused, which I didn't mind at the time because as a 12-year-old, I didn't think Cyclops was that cool. But as I've matured and read more X-Men comics, I'm like, actually, no, Cyclops is fucking badass. And
Cyclops is a Captain America, a Superman kind of archetype, like who is interesting in more recent times because they've then gone, maybe maybe everyone thinks that's what he's supposed to be, but he's actually a massive knobhead, and it's sort of like they've played more with that over the years.
Yeah.
But like at this point, the animated series Cyclops is clearly kind of what they're going for.
Yeah, it's the Boy Scout. So.
This movie is the most forgiving and most generous towards his character out of all of the films in the series.
Yeah,
even going forward, this is the one where they go, here's who he is, here's his motivation. He's mostly there to be kind of a friendly rival to Logan.
Yeah.
But we're gonna let James Marsden play, and his look is very. I mean, admittedly, his look is pretty fucking cool.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's a great design.
Black leather
just
works
splash
for anyone,
some yellow. Splash some yellow onto that uniform in a sequel, and it would have been like, there he is.
Yeah.
That's frickin' Cyclops.
Yeah.
Oh my god. He does a great job with what he's given, but like you say, he is wasted going forward, quite literally. Halle Berry, I've alluded to this, and it really struck me watching all three this week, is the most wasted cast member, and Storm is the most wasted character in the entire trilogy.
Yeah, she doesn't really get anything to do, she's just there.
Yeah, Storm, the goddamn absolute queen, the powerhouse of the X-Men in both her power ability and just how dynamic she is as a character, is reduced to just like, hi Logan. Oh, I'll make a bit of wind. Oh, here we go.
She just really doesn't get much to do.
Yeah, she's there because everyone recognises Storm.
Yeah.
That's why she's there. They don't have anything to give her, and it really sucks. Because, I mean, the three most impressive wigs in the series. Yeah. But, like, you know, they just... I had some of the... I had some of the action figures from the first and second film that I got, like, in a Toy Master...
There weren't any for the third, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, they did, like... They did, like, 2 as part of a Marvel Legends wave, like, 2 years later.
But we'll get to that.
It's really weird. But, yeah, the action figures for the first film are really kind of shit. Like, the first wave is sort of bad sculpts, but then the next wave are just like... I had the Storm, and it's Halle Berry, and she's... I shit you not, I'll do it for you on camera now, but she's posed sort of with her arm, like, kind of one arm just sort of down, and the other arm is posed, like, with a bent elbow and a splayed palm. Yeah. And it's so you can either have her with one arm out like that, and the splayed palm, bent arm one up a little bit further back, so it's almost like she's casting something in some direction.
Doing a lightning...
Yeah, but the natural fit for the character is her arm down by her side, and the hand is shaped to fit round the bicep. The bent arm hand is shaped to fit around the bicep of the stretched out arm. Yeah. So it's like she just sort of casually stood there with one arm, a very kind of shy, coquettish pose.
Which I don't think is particularly Aurora.
Her face is that standard kind of action figure. We've just done one scan of the actor with a neutral expression, and we're leaving it at that kind of thing. So it's just a neutral Halle Berry face. And because Halle Berry is quite petite, up against, like, say, the Cyclops or Wolverine figure, she's tiny. So Storm, the action figure of the weather-wielding African goddess, the mutant queen who controls the sky and can darken and bring about the sun, and, like, oh my god, she's so powerful. The action figure is just like, hi, I'm Storm. It's really, really weird. And the rogue action figure is even weirder. It's just, like, a really stiff Anna Paquin, like, in that green jumper with the scarf.
Well, here's the thing about
action figure
about Rogue in these movies is because there's no Ms. Marvel. They didn't really think about another way to give her strength, flight, durability powers. So Rogue is just
I'd argue you don't have to give them to her if you do something interesting with her powers.
Yeah,
they do in the first film for an emotional, like, impetus and reason as to why she goes on the journey she goes on. And then they just kind of forget about her after this movie. Yeah. She's just kind of there.
Well,
for
no,
films.
she does. She gets quite a bit into the second movie, but yeah, in the third
but
one,
most of her plot is, I like boys. My boy might like another girl. I'm mad now. And her conclusion at the end of the third one is so, like, I get it if the third one immediately followed the first one. Do you know what I mean? But, like, 2 shows her, like, learning to live with her ability and, like, you know, not necessarily being mutant and proud, but being like, you know, I get it. I can be part of this community and do good, and part of this operation and do good. And then in the third one, she's like, my boyfriend might like another girl. I'm going to get rid of my powers now. And you're like, it's just... That was definitely where she could have gone once upon a time, but with the film in between, it kind of feels odd.
Yeah.
I don't know. But Anna Paquin is great in this first movie. She's so good in this first movie. I love that Rogue's the POV character because it's, like you said, it's the Logan surrogate father thing from the comics, but very specifically her running away from home, her getting involved in the X-Men, like all that sort of stuff, feels very much like they, when coming up with the screenplay for this, watched the pilot episode at Night of the Sentinels for the animated series, because that is about Jubilee running away from home, getting caught up in shenanigans, joining the X-Men. Logan looks after her, so it's like, okay, I get that. And again, the opening of this movie's fucking great for her, like where she nearly kills her boyfriend. Yeah,
her boyfriend's
her
the actor.
Powers manifest for the first time as they kiss.
The actor who plays him went on to play Albert Wesker in the Resident Evil sequels.
Oh, well, there you go. So that's, and this was his origin story.
That's a little bit of trivia for you.
I hate strong, powerful women, which is why, after being kissed by my girlfriend, made me have a seizure. I made zombies.
Yeah, no, I think that her opening scene's real good. It's real punch. The way that she's introduced to Logan, to Wolverine, to huge Ackman.
Yeah,
is
or not so huge Ackman in this movie.
No, he's pretty
scrawny Ackman.
But still, again, he completely sells it, because there was that whole thing of like, oh, Hugh Jackman's too tall and pretty to be Wolverine. I was like, yeah, but look at what he does on screen with him.
Oh shit, it reads like he's very much. He's very much. It's weird going back to the first X-Men movie after so long, because he is his most kind of cookie cutter in this first one. He's great in it, but it's so weird to see how much better he gets at it as he goes on playing this part. Like, if you watch this movie and then immediately watch The Wolverine, you'd watch them both and go, right, well, he's Wolverine in the second in that second film. He's all right in this one, but like you say, he's the character. He's the cartoon incarnation in particular. He's very much that, like, without the Berserker rage. They save that for the next one.
Yeah.
But, like, without the Berserker rage, it's like, yeah, this is the asshole, dickhead, cigar-chomping piece of shit who, like, has the heart of a warrior but can't give a fuck, really.
Yeah,
it's like, I just want to get beer, get my money and leave. He's not the hero yet. He's not the Wolverine yet.
No, there's a little bit of... There's a hint of the hero's journey in this for him. But, it's kind of very... perfunctory and rushed through, but I really like Hugh Jackman in this. I think overall
his hair's hilarious, but it's not the worst in the trilogy.
No, but I was talking about this. I was theorizing that Logan does try to style his hair, but it naturally resumes that shape.
That'd be funny.
If we'd have got a scene,
that'd be funny if that was the reason.
If we'd have got a scene of that in one of the movies as a sort of explain away thing, I think that would have been great. I'd have been like, yes, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
But
because in this he's just sort of like he's just got fuzz on his head, basically. It's like it's a fuzzy mane with some slight pointing in the iconic shape, but not quite all the way there. In the second one, they kind of refine it. There's a little bit more gel involved, and it curls round at the back, which is like, who would do that to their hair?
That's what I mean. It must be a natural thing. There's no way he styles it like that.
In the third one, they just go, fuck it. They just put a shitload of gel on his head and spray it and go, like, that'll do. And while we're at it, let's thicken your eyebrows with this eyebrow pencil and make them even dark. The third one is so weird. If you look at his face across the three first movies, the way they do his makeup and his mutton chops is so different. It's really weird.
There's a lot of weird hair and makeup choices in the third one, but we'll get to that. But yeah,
he's great in this. His claws look amazing. For 2000, they nail
the claws right off.
There's practical props, but it's those moments where the CGI, it coming out of the hands.
It's the snick
that first bit, where he has the claw to the guy's face with the shotgun in the bar, and that middle one just slowly slips out.
Yeah.
You're like, oh,
I wonder if that was a prosthetic
that's
hand.
creepy. I don't know. I think
that was
some
a
CGI
practical
sweetness.
rig, maybe. Yeah, I mean, probably, but I'd have to go back and look. But
because it's a very quick shot. It's only about a second that you see that, and then it cuts to the side angle of it, and the guy pulling his thing away. Because that's the thing, the CGI in this movie, they use it sparingly.
Oh, very sparingly, yeah.
It's helped the movie age well visually, I think. It doesn't look
there's
tacky.
one particularly
There's
dodgy
some weird
moment.
wire work in there. There's some weird wire work in it.
There's the moment towards the end where he's fighting Sabretooth on the Statue of Liberty, and it was in all the trailers. It's where he falls off, and then he uses his claw to sort of
swing around the peak of the crown.
Of the peak of the crown, and then come back on. And it's a really odd shot, and it doesn't quite work. But I see what they were going for.
I had the Statue of Liberty playset. They made 2 playsets for this film.
Oh wow!
One's the torch hand. I wish I still had it because it just as a display piece it looked really good.
Oh, look at
but
these
one's
up
the
right
torch
now.
hand with the smashed up what do you call it? Swirling whirly durly in it.
The swirly durly machine.
Yeah, the swirly durly mutagen machine. And the other one was the Statue of Liberty's head with sort of steel trap trap the hero kind of thing inside it. And also there were little claw dents in one of the Statue of Liberty's crown peaks, which is funny because I tried to stick an X2 Wolverine's claws in it and be like, I wonder if we could just dangle from here. And of course I could do that, but it breaks your claws off, doesn't it? So, didn't break mine off. Look at that. It was one of those where I was looking at it, I was like, that's bending in it. Oh, I need to get that out of there. I need to take that out of there right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, but they were kind of cool. I as far as like the set pieces go, the fight at the train station is fine, but it's worth it for that standoff with the police outside and Magneto afterwards.
Yeah.
Because again, like the action in this is kind of it's restrained, except in a couple of places where they want to up the stakes.
There's some good stuff in there, but it's like the Wolverine Mystique fight on Ellis Island is really good. Again, because I think they really... really have some fun with Mystique in this trilogy of making her really agile and nimble. And so when she gets into fights, it's very... she's very fluid in a way.
You get it. You're like, oh, she's not just Disguisey McDisguisey. Like, she's the perfect assassin. She can infiltrate somewhere and then kill whoever she needs to kill. Mostly using her ankles.
Yeah, there's just so much... she's like a bunch of snakes. It's great.
And just her music cues as well. Like,
weird scratchy sound. There's not a whole lot of there's not
distinct
a whole
themes.
lot of memorable music or distinct themes in these movies, but the Mystique theme is quite nice. What else can we say about
fun.
the first one? It's fine.
I mean, it's got a few lines that we've definitely all repeated from time to time. You know, the whole like, "It's me, prove it. You're a dick."
It's great.
Okay, like that's
great.
And then there's the line that we all kind of go, really, with the whole what would you prefer, a yellow spandex? We're like, yeah,
yes, we would.
But at the time, it was kind of cool to take the piss out of the sincerity of the comic inspirations. So it's like, I see why they did that line.
It's like, yes, I actually would prefer yellow spandex. And early
but you're still
concept
wearing
designs
skin tight
exist.
uniforms.
Yeah, early concept designs exist that had more colourful costumes. So they were on the table for a while.
I wish we'd had them. Oh my god.
Also, some of the dialogue can be attributed to an uncredited rewrite from Joss Whedon,
including the most infamous line in the movie, apparently,
which we've talked about before.
I will argue is only crap because of Halle Berry's delivery. Weirdly, it's not a great line, but it's not meant to be delivered like a one-liner in a Schwarzenegger movie, which is how they go for it.
But if there's a better line there.
Oh, there's definitely a better line.
The line is, you know what happens to a Toad when he gets struck by lightning? The
Toad
same
goes,
thing that happens
huh?
to it, and he goes, the same thing that happens to everything else. But it should be, do you know what happens to a Toad when he gets struck by lightning? Toad goes, huh? And she says, it croaks. That's a line!
That would be a Schwarzenegger one-liner and would work in the way they deliver it. Absolutely.
Absolutely with this movie. Apparently, there was a running gag with Toad that line would have been a callback to, but it was cut.
What running gag could that possibly
Toad
have
had
been?
some kind of catchphrase that Storm was mocking in that scene, but it got cut.
Oh, so like, do you know what happens to a Toad when it's caught? Blah, something like that. Like a bit of recurring,
something like that.
People mocking him for like, so you're a Toad. That he's like, do you know what happens to it? I don't know.
But it's definitely
Senator
a
Kelly
script.
going gooey.
Sorry?
I'm just trying to hit things before we move on to the next one. Senator Kelly turning into a watery gooey pile is
horrifying, brilliant,
horrifying.
Love it. All the stuff with Senator Kelly's mutation is great.
Stanley on the beach smoking hot dogs.
Hey,
yeah, he's a hot dog vendor because why not?
Why not?
Which is great because he's kind of a hot dog vendor in is it Spider-Man 2 or it's deleted scene in Spider-Man 1. A deleted scene in Spider-Man 1, his original cameo was him as like a guy selling merch at the festival.
Yeah, okay.
And he's trying to advertise sunglasses. He's saying, "They're like the ones the X-Men wear." And that was the line in the
because there was going to be a Wolverine cameo in one of the Raimi Spider-Man films. But do you know why they didn't film it?
Go on.
Because they couldn't find his costume in time.
Really? Well, why go for the costume? Just put him in a freaking vest and a jacket.
Yeah, but I mean,
we don't get it.
I assume they meant like the hair and shit as well. Like they couldn't.
Oh yeah.
Get him. They couldn't do the costume
like
and makeup in
stuff.
time. That was the reason that they didn't have the cameo.
I mean, I'm kind of glad they didn't in a weird way because that would just complicate things further at this point.
There we go.
I hate the love triangle. I already hate it in movie 1. So they establish in this that Jean and Scott are a thing. And then Logan comes along and is like, "Hey, Jean, I think you're hot." That's basically that's the breadth of it in this. Like, I think you're hot.
And it seems like she's kind
Scott's
of
like,
maybe almost going for it, but then.
But that's the thing. Toward the end of the movie, she's suddenly sort of like, "Logan, we shouldn't." And it's like, have you had a conversation that we've not seen?
Yeah,
that, like
it
you
feels
two
a
get
bit
on?
rushed, doesn't it? Yeah.
It's really weird, especially because they kind of set up the idea that she and Scott have been together a while. It's like, is she really just going to leave because some vaguely handsome hairy man is like?
I mean, they're sleeping together, like not boning, like literally sleeping. They share a bedroom in this like boarding school, so one would assume that that's a pretty serious relationship. But this hairy fucking Kavorka man comes along, and all of a sudden.
It's there because it has been there in other
there are some
characters. That's the only reason it's in there.
There are some things in these films that make sense because of the logic of the films and the characters. Yeah. But there are some things in these films, and that's one of them, that are there because that's what people expect from X-Men.
Which kind of sucks, because it's like you could do so much more like with that over time, and instead you put it in here.
But, this was definitely... I don't think this was a franchise that was particularly well planned in advance, because this was a time where you didn't plan things in advance.
Yeah, they didn't have a sequel script or concept ready to go when the movie did absolute gangbusters at the box office.
Although, thankfully, David Hayter was on hand to craft a sequel to his screenplay for the first one.
Whilst clearly thumbing through his copy of God Loves, Man Kills.
And yes, that David Hayter who voices Solid Snake, that one, yes, it is him. Who wrote the screenplay for the first one from a story by Bryan Singer and some other person.
Well, let's be honest, from a story by Chris Claremont.
Yeah, well.
Let's be honest.
Yeah. And the second one, again, does the same. Does not return for the third. And I'm not saying that David Hayter's like a great script writer. But
he's better than the third film.
Yeah.
This is, I for me, I was always like, oh, do you know what? X2, like as much as the franchise pisses me off, X2, solid. And I've got to say, on this rewatch, first time in about 7 years, I think, for this one for me, it's not as brilliant as I remember.
It's a bit.
But it's definitely, again, for me, maybe we won't agree, but it's definitely the best of these three.
Oh,
like,
yeah, no, it is.
Down.
It is. It suffers from sidelining Cyclops. Immediately sidelining him.
Oh, yeah, nerfing Cyclops and the Professor, but at least it still dips in on the Professor and gives him scenes so that we can see, once again, phenomenal actors playing off of each other. In this case, Patrick Stewart and Brian Cox playing off of each other. Which is a joy to see. Can we just...
Brian Cox is having a fucking hoot and a holler in this.
He's so good in this. He is so good. And it pisses me off when people talk about things like Superman and this, that, and the other and say, oh, they're too OP. Like, what sort of villains can you put them up against? Motherfucker, this movie is about people who can, like, move things with their minds, create storms, heal from any wounds, slice up a bitch with things that pop out of their hands. And yet, the villain is just an angry military dude, and he bests them all.
What I also love about
so easily, and it's just like good, like credit to Solid Snake, good writing.
Yeah,
good writing.
Well, not just
is
him.
how
It's
you make
a three-man
interesting stories.
It could have been Michael Dougherty or Zach Penn, but looking at what Zach Penn did on the third one, it probably wasn't him.
But Cox has read it and he's like, right, so wait, you're giving me the source material to look at. He's an angry preacher.
Yeah.
But in this, I'm an angry military guy who's been winning wars since before you were sucking on your mum's titties.
Which makes no sense because
him and
Brian
Kelly
Cox and Bruce Green would have had the same age.
Yeah.
But anyway,
it's a great line though.
It's a great line,
and it is well delivered by Cox.
Like all of Stryker's stuff in this, it's a great line, well delivered, because it, like you're saying, he takes that angry preacher energy and marries it to this military dude energy, and so he's basically playing it as a preacher who just happens to be a military scientist, and he's great fun, like really, really boo hiss villainy, and
who's had a complicated relationship with mutants over his life. Like his first exposure to them is very likely discovering his son Jason being a mutant. So he sends him off to Xavier's Academy, presumably in its very early days, and he wants Xavier to cure Jason, and Xavier's like, that's not what this is about, mate. Like you don't cure mutants. Like that's who they are. Like I can help him control his powers so that he can live a day-to-day life and whilst learning what good he can do for the world and for other people with his powers. Like, and Stryker's like, well, fuck you. So we've already got him. We've already got the evangelical sort of like pro conversion therapy again, like homophobic angle for his character. So again, you see him, you recognize him in the real world, and you're like, what an absolute prick.
Yeah.
But then he's gone away and at some point after Jason being at Xavier's, because Jason is clearly sort of in like his 30s, maybe 40s. Like this was a long time ago he was at Xavier's. So in the interim, he's run a military division that has experimented on mutants for the military. So it's without even going into like
including his own
in
son.
The movie, they're suggesting that he's like, right, so I can't cure my son. Well, then I'm going to use my son for the good of America.
Also,
terms.
I was trying
Give
to
me
work
that guy
out.
who can heal and stick some metal in him. I'm going to do this on my terms. Now he's got to the point where he's like, fuck it, I'm going to kill them all.
I was trying to work out who, if Jason Stryker was a character in the comics, but he's a adaptation of Mastermind.
Oh, right, okay. Because I think Jason is mentioned, like you see him in flashback in God Loves Man Kills, don't you?
I don't know if his name is Jason.
Because in that, you find out that Stryker killed his wife and child when his child, got powers. His kid got powers, so he killed them both. Because it's that whole crazed preacher, like, scorched earth thing, isn't it? It's like, right, get rid of this devil from my house, get rid of this demon and the woman that sired this demon. It's like, I mean, you kind of had a role in creating that child as well. So
just a little bit.
Fucking God-fearing motherfucker. So it's interesting that in this incarnation they go, no, he hates mutants that much that he's going to utilize them for military benefit. And when that doesn't work, and it's sort of implied that he changes his tact again after Logan escapes 20 years prior, that he's like, right, I'm just going to find a way to kill them all. And he's been pushing for, you know that in the X-Men movie universe, he is one meeting away from having the Sentinels commissioned. That's kind of the thingy, because and maybe he did start that, because in the next movie we get a suggestion that the Sentinels were possibly a concept at some point in the next film at the beginning, very briefly. But yeah, Stryker is fucking phenomenal, and the character recurs throughout the series going forward. He is never as interesting as he is here. Like, he's at his most compelling and his most like villainous and frightening in this movie. No more so than when he sends a Black Ops team to trank, if not kill, a house full of children.
Oh, trank them. Trank them to kill them later.
Oh my god.
To experiment on them later.
Oh my god.
And the assault on the mansion is real good.
We get our first glimpse of Berserker Wolverine.
Yeah.
We get to see Berserker Wolverine. I mean, bloodless, but like the energy and the violence is so like it's scary. Like to watch Wolverine suddenly wailing on that dude in the kitchen. And when he stabs him in the chest and is just screaming at him, you're like, oh, there he is. There's Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Wolverine we've been waiting for. There he is. He's in the movie. He's not even had a beer and he's still going berserk. This is great. He's had an ice cold Dr. Pepper.
Do you have any beer? This is a school. Which I thought was great.
It's like, so that's a no. That's a no.
So I like that Iceman gets more to doing this, and Rogue as well.
And you get to sort of see Iceman developing into an X-Man. Like you see Bobby making the subtle jump from student to student. They're absolutely going to be training first when they start like recruiting the next lot. The basic plot of the movie is an attempted assassination at the White House from a mutant activist leads to William Stryker's sort of task forces to perform a sting operation on a suspected place of mutant recruitment and development into paramilitary team. He's not wrong.
Yeah, well, he's not wrong.
The Xavier Institute. He kidnaps Xavier and melds his mind to help create a Cerebro surrogate that will be used to broadcast a death frequency that will kill all mutants in the world. Meanwhile, the X-Men find the mutant assassin, learn that he's been set up by Stryker to do this, bring in Magneto after his escape, and they all team up and work together. It's so good. They all team up and work together. It's weird how we don't get blood with the claws in the mansion sequence, but we get that moment in the cell with Magneto, and the film's totally fine with it.
Hey, the MPAA is a funny old thing.
It is. They all so basically the X-Men and the remaining two members of the Brotherhood, Magneto and Mystique, team up to take down Stryker, kill the Weapon X program once and for all, and then last second flip surprise, Magneto and Mystique take advantage of the situation to perform a Brotherhood level terror attack. That's the film. Yep. It's the longest of the three, over 2 hours, nearing 2 hours 15 minutes total runtime. This one, the other two, both come in under an hour 40. It's definitely the strongest of the three in terms of a film, like in terms of an experience, set pieces, running time, pacing. It knows when to slow down and then when to pick back up, and like it has a sense of that. But its biggest weakness, which I noticed on this watch, is it has no fucking clue who any of the characters are and what to do with them.
No, and this is something that gets even worse into the next one, but it starts here. I don't know if it's because there's so many writers working on it, because it's lost 3 script writers.
There's also motivations. Jean is not a main character in this movie, but we learn early on that her powers are developing in a way that an accelerated rate. In the first movie, she is telekinetic with some mild telepathic abilities, and the professor's trying to teach her to use her telepathic abilities. In this movie, it's implied to be like a month, maybe 2 months since the first one, because they refer to the Ellis Island incident, and people ask if Senator Kelly, which
it's less than a year.
Is
less than a year after the first one.
And Wolverine's gone to Canada, done a bit of searching, and come back. Like it's implied that her powers have accelerated very quickly. And then that's not touched on at all for the rest of the movie. Like when she finds out Scott's kidnapped, she's worried, and Famke Janssen plays the heck out of it. But then the script and the film kind of go, "Yeah, we'll get to you later."
Yeah,
and it's sort of weird. Like
there's a bit of tell don't show going on in these movies where they tell you about stuff, but they don't show you. Like Cyclops mentions like that the room started shaking when she's having nightmares now, where it used to be that she could had to really concentrate to move small objects, but now she's unconsciously, creating much stronger telekinetic effects. It would be nice to see that.
Yeah.
Don't tell us about that.
Open the film with her having a nightmare or something.
Yeah.
But it's because she's not a main character in the rest of the movie. They've put that there to establish that at the end she's going to make a sacrifice play. Yeah. Which comes the hell out of nowhere because it's mentioned at the beginning. There's nothing about it throughout the whole film. Yeah. And then she does she does that. Like there's no through line of, oh my god, something's out of control in me, I don't know what's going on. And then at the end she's like, I can stop this, maybe this is why this is happening. But they do it because they've already at this point gone, we know what the next one's going to be, so we'll put this in there. It's weird.
They do it a little bit with her being able to take out one of the missiles that's trying to shoot down the X-Jet. but then not
which
be
is a pretty
able
good
to
sequence actually.
Yeah.
Like it's,
but then not be able
every
to.
time.
She loses control and can't do the second one.
Yeah.
So there is that moment where it's like,
but you could have absolutely had that scene. You could have had that scene without her at the beginning being like, I can suddenly do more. Like, because you just assume as a viewer, oh, Jean's developing. Like, she's getting better. She can do bigger things.
Yeah. I'll just put a bit of dialogue in that scene, which is about like, oh, that was
weird, Jean.
Or her being like, I've never been able to do that before, Structurally, it's a bit... There's little things you could tweak with it to make it flow a bit better, but for the most part, it's really solid. It's got some really great action sequences. That opening assault on the White House is incredible.
That's pretty great, yeah. Especially the final shot before the president is pinned to the desk. Like, it's almost one continuous shot of this mysterious teleporting assailant.
I fucking love Nightcrawler, and I think they use him really well in this.
I would have been happy had they never brought him back with the revisions later on with the time travel-y, this, that, and the other version. I would be happy to be like, oh yeah, they do Nightcrawler in one of the films, and they use him really fucking well, which they do in this one.
He was supposed to come back for X3.
He was, but Alan Cumming was like, I'm not doing that in the makeup again.
No, he wanted to do it. But
did he?
It was decided that because his role was so small in the script, that it wasn't worth
expensive
bringing him back for it. But Alan Cumming was up for it.
Well, all you have to do is make up his face and give him the gloves and just put him in a full body costume instead.
You'd think, but hey.
Oh, that sucks, because I know he complained a lot around the release of this movie. I remember reading it at the time. He was just sort of like, he said, I hate the makeup. Hate it. Absolutely hate it. He says, if I never do it again, I'll be happy. So I always assumed that was why he never came back to do number 3.
No,
but he is in the game. He is in the game for number 3 because when X-Men 2 came out, the game was X2 Wolverine's Revenge, which has nothing to do with the film.
Yeah, it shares some aesthetics.
Yeah, some of the aesthetics there, and like the costumes are costume options in it.
Yeah.
But it's a comic book story with Mark Hamill like voicing Wolverine. Comic book characters that aren't in the movies are in it. But then for X-Men 3, the game that came out was called X-Men the Game, and you played as Wolverine, Iceman, and Nightcrawler across a big story.
It was like a prequel to the movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it's like, oh, okay, I guess Nightcrawler is still some character you do want in the franchise.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't be, I'm not surprised after 2. Like he was definitely the breakout character when this film came out. This is the first one of these I saw in the cinema, and that like. Everything to do with Nightcrawler was what everybody because it was a school trip, we went to see X-Men 2 with school. And it's like, really?
Odd one.
Really? And I think it was year 6 as well, it was primary school. So it was like, really? Like, we're going to watch Magneto pull blood out of a man on our year 6 trip? Okay. Sure. All right. That sequence is, like you said before, it's freaking great. It's plastic prison, which is a wonderful concept. It breaks down the moment you really try and think about it, but it's a great comic book idea. Like, it's a plastic prison. Like, the bullets are... There's a weird bit later on where Deathstrike, she shoots Scott with the gun and nothing happens, and she looks surprised.
I think it's like a taser gun or like an ejector, but it bounces off his leather armor. Right,
because I thought like maybe she fired the gun and was like, it's only plastic.
I can't remember
why did they make those guns if they don't actually have any practical use?
I can't remember whether it's like a trank shell or if it's like a taser round, but it just it does that moment where it bounces off his leather armor. So I don't think he's wearing armor. He just looks down and then blasts her.
Yeah, that scene is really poorly directed.
Yeah,
that little fight in the waiting area for the prison is really poorly directed.
And it's like
sort of shows,
the most
it shows
that
one of
Scott gets to do.
Yeah, it shows one of Singer's biggest limitations as a director, outside of his limitations as a human being for being a alleged rapist. Is the bit where you realise in that scene, all of his female characters are going to fight like Mystique.
Yeah,
because that's how Deathstrike fights for the entirety of the movie. When she's used, she fights like
she's
Mystique.
Not actually in it that much.
She's not, and she's only there. And I feel who's the actress, because she
Kelly
intimidating as Kelly Hugh. She's intimidating as sin. Like she really plays that cold air of menace. But like she's just there so that they can have the she's got claws too moment, which on reflection, and again, I'm more a casual X-Men fan. Like out of the two of us, I'd say you're the X-Men. Like you're the X-Men fan. You're the X-Men enthusiast.
I'm the X-Man.
In terms of the comics. You're the X-Man. It just makes me sad that we have the wasted opportunity that we're not going to have Deathstrike with giant, screwed up looking arms, big claws, and that like screaming bloodlust that she has. Instead, she's just, I'm the silent operative who works with Stryker, and I have pointy nails. So,
that's the difference. In the comics, Deathstrike's not a mutant.
No, she's
a cyborg.
She's a cyborg. Yeah.
Which is
so
why
I get it. It's that thing of. It's that thing of, well, we want to have a thug, like a second level boss who's with Stryker, who one of our heroes has to fight. Is the comic book movie tradition of like, well, let's put in a character we're obviously not going to build a movie around. Like, let's have them in. And
I still think
it's kind of a cool visual, but it's just a shame because like, Deathstrike is such a, for lack of a less obvious word, striking visual character in the comics.
Not striking with a Y, by the way.
Yeah. Then this to just make a Kelly Yu in a leather catsuit like the X-Men is sort of like, that's a shame.
I think some of the action, the fight between her and Wolverine in the Adamantium Forge is still pretty cool. I like the sort of really grim way that she eventually gets taken out. Which is
and the fact that Logan he immediately looks like he regrets it because throughout the movie, Stryker's using this sort of like chemical compound to essentially put each of the mutants that he interrogates or manipulates into sort of like a trance state briefly. It sort of like makes them compliant. It is implied
to be some sort of like cortical fluid that is extracted from his own son. Or something that is manufactured from like his own son's spinal fluid or some shit like that.
Yeah. It's sort of mutant truth serum, effectively, because he uses it to get Magneto to fess up. He uses it to make Nightcrawler an assassin.
Yeah, he keeps Deathstrike under control with it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Yeah, we know he keeps Deathstrike under control, and I hadn't noticed it till this viewing when Logan stabs her with the adamantium pipe, and it fills her with adamantium, and then it cools down, and she essentially freezes in place, and then drops like a rock into the thing. You see her eyes, which have always looked kind of funky, like fade into her normal eyes.
Yeah.
And you see him go, fuck. Like, he's just killed somebody so he can live and finish the mission and save the day. But somebody who, the moment like she started to die, it's like the chemical wore off and she woke up for a second.
And that's a very Wolverine
and that's really
thing as
horrible.
Well.
It's a very Wolverine.
Wolverine does kill. But he doesn't and he's very good at it.
Yeah. And if you're an absolute bad guy, he will take pleasure in putting you in your place. But he doesn't want to kill everybody. That's not what he wants to do.
Because he realizes that feeds the animal inside, which he doesn't want to do.
And also here, he's just killed a mirror version of himself, effectively. Yeah. It's like, that's what Stryker wanted me to be.
Yeah.
There's some great stuff in here, but it's all done through the actors.
Yeah.
Not through necessarily the direction of the set pieces or the script. We get a few more mutant cameos. We get our second appearance of Kitty Pryde, played by another actor.
Yeah.
But used really well. And if we were never going to get Kitty Pryde as a main character in the movies, it'd be cool to be like, but she's in that bit in X2 where she's like escaping the guards and going through the walls.
I would have preferred it if we didn't get Kitty Pryde in the movies. As much as I like Ellen Page, I would have preferred it if we didn't get her in X3.
They don't do her justice. We get Colossus briefly in a cameo that gets bigger in the next one.
Yeah. And apparently he was asked back for Deadpool.
Yeah, you were saying that the other day. He was asked back, but they said he was going to be as the performance capture for
and he would have been dubbed over.
Yeah.
Which he didn't want to do.
So it's that thing of, we want to ask the guy who's played him before to be him, but it's our version of him, so he's just going to be the physical performer. And it's like...
Again, to be fair, like, his version of Colossus was so bland. Probably, again, because of the script. But it was so devoid of anything approaching flavour.
And also,
it made no difference, really.
One of the many now just purely American versions of the characters, because Halle Berry goes from having an African accent in the first one to being American in this.
Well, say an African accent, a sort of hint of something that isn't American.
Yeah. Colossus is just American in this. So he's just American. Rogue's accent softens in this. Anna Paquin doesn't put the Texas twang on anywhere near as much in this one. It's a much softer accent, and it's almost completely gone by the third one.
Which is a shame because I really like it.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's kind of goofy in the first one, but I think it just adds to the sort of comic booky charm of it that she's got this really goofy southern accent.
There's some other highlights in the film, like the Pyro. I think is quite good. He's used quite well in this film.
Don't particularly like the actor, but they use the character well.
Yeah,
I think he's just a bit of a whiny shit, isn't he?
Yeah, but that's kind of works because by the time he goes with Magneto, you're like, of course that little bastard's gone with the bad guys. Of course he has.
He's a greasy little incel who wears sandals and popper pants. When Rogue grabs his ankle to stick his powers, he's wearing fucking the popper pants and he's got them open and he's mind you, I guess he was wearing cast-offs.
Be glad he was, so she could take his powers.
Yeah, that's true.
That was
originally that scene was supposed to, the fire was supposed to end by Storm coming up and putting him out with rain, but
so once again they decided to not use Storm.
Well, apparently they
have her there but not do anything.
They were worried about the budget constraints, so they just had Rogue take his powers and put the fires out.
I guess it's slightly less money spent if you're just CGIing the flames disappearing.
Yeah, or just turn the gas off to the flame jets.
Yeah, that too.
That are on set.
Speaking of that scene, we get the Bobby coming out to his parents sequence, which is again like touches on the discrimination angle and how they're playing mutantdom, and really hammers home that the angle Singer and the writers were coming from was very much like homophobic discrimination.
Have you tried
where they were coming from.
Not being a mutant?
Not being a mutant. Bonus points for kitty cats. Little kitty cat licking claws and then licking iced tea.
That's very good.
It's freaking cute. And I do love the fact that Logan just like opens a beer and then Bobby's parents and brother come home and their first reaction isn't, "Who the hell are you?" It's, "What are you doing in our house?" It's like, I'd be pissed. I'd be really pissed off. I'd be angry.
Yeah,
like,
but
what the hell?
They seem a bit milquetoast, don't they? And a bit.
Yeah. Professor Logan. And what exactly are you a professor of, Mr. Logan?
Art. Which I can believe.
This is the best Jackman looks in this trilogy.
Yeah,
he like finding the balance of bringing Wolverine into live action.
This is the movie that popularized the vest look for Wolverine.
Yeah, the huge jacked man look.
The huge jacked man with the white vest, and the cigar. Very good look.
And the turnaround, the planned turnaround as well is really nice. The way Magneto and Mystique co-opt.
Yeah.
Stryker's plan to make Xavier kill all mutants, and they're like, change it to humans. Bye, motherfuckers.
Mystique
and off
getting
they go.
loads to do.
Yeah. Oh,
I love Mystique in this.
She getting to scroll through a computer full of a boatload of Easter egg names of different mutants. Just so everyone goes,
actually doing
they mentioned Gambit on the screen.
Seeing her doing some espionage and infiltration.
All on her own back as well.
Yeah.
All on her own back. They don't establish that Magneto was like, come and get me out when you can. She's gone, no, we need Eric. I need Eric out here now.
Yeah.
Which
I imagine that's the thing she's been planning for a while, but just...
Yeah.
Hasn't been able to...
It's capitalized quite well in this and the next one that she is like... Eric is her dad, is her husband, is her lover, is her mentor, is like she and he are an entity that is completely inseparable because he believes so much in her and she believes so much in what he wants to do.
Yeah, she's a true believer. She's not in this for power. She believes in the cause.
Yeah, and it's like when you see them in the jet and they're joking about Rogue, and it's proper giggly little. It's sort of fun to see her have these weird.
They're like the Noi kids at the back of the bus. I love it.
Yeah,
it's really good.
It's like, oh my god, you two are ride or die, which is why I think one of the few bits that does hit quite well in the third one hits so well is because of the work done in this movie.
Oh yeah,
to show that. Fuck Toad and Sabretooth. These two are ride or die.
Yeah,
and oh god. Can we talk, before we move on to X3, about the what the fuck scene in this movie? Which it took me to this viewing to realise how bad it is, actually. It's the tent scene, which lasts all of maybe 50 seconds. So Logan and Jean have a chat, and I think they kiss, and then she's like, "No, I can't do this." And I'm there watching it. I'm there watching it, going, "No, but seriously, why is Logan Jean Scott a thing in these movies aside from it's been a thing in other media?"
Yeah,
like they don't work to it. They're trying to keep because X-Men is ultimately at its best when it's a soap opera, and. They don't put the work in to make it a soap opera.
It's why I've always thought that X-Men as a would work better as a series rather than
as an ongoing
franchise.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's just sort of they're like, oh well, we want to honor that, so we'll have the love triangle, but they don't put any work into explaining why that love triangle exists or even what based on what they give you. Jean's a piece of shit. Who just randomly wants to snog the handsome guy for no reason, and Logan's a piece of shit for just being like, yeah, she's gonna get with me because I'm the handsome guy.
She wants some extent of the story. Man.
Yeah. Whereas we're seeing they don't show that she and Scott have a tension or have fallen apart or drifted apart at all.
No.
So her just suddenly being like, oh god, I want to get me some of that hairy Canadian peen. It's just out of nowhere. It's really weird. So then Mystique sees this happen and has a very brief conversation with Nightcrawler as the film's way of just going, look, we're not going to do the comic book versions, guys, but look, they had a conversation. Can we move on? All right, here we go. That feels like the only reason why that moment happens.
Yeah.
Also to acknowledge that, he, why would you not stay in disguise all the time? I shouldn't have to. She's got a good point. Builds up her character, makes it even more hilarious that earlier on in the movie, the first time we see Nightcrawler, he's wearing a shitload of makeup. So, which you don't see him wipe off, but during the teleporting in the White House, you just see bits of it on his chin that he's not wiped off yet.
Well, it's one of those, he's infiltrating, he has to be disguised for that bit.
Yeah. So. I mean, he's put makeup on his face. He's still got blue hands and a tail.
Yeah.
But sure.
He's hiding the tail under a coat.
A massive coat. A big old coat. But and then Wolverine goes to bed in the tent because they all sort of set up camp, which is great because you see some of them are on the jet and some of them camp out.
Yeah, but also the idea that they've got all this survival gear in the jet, which is neat.
Yeah,
it's like no one's just like, oh, get all the campy bits from the jet, and it's just like, no, it's just there because of course they have that stuff. They're a team. Paramilitary they go on missions. They have this stuff. Of course, it makes sense. Yeah.
And then Jean slithers into his tent.
Slithers!
And starts making out with him. And at this point, Wolverine, again, it's all through Hugh Jackman. The story didn't give us anything. The editing didn't give us anything. It's all through Hugh Jackman. You see that he's a bit look, yeah, maybe I'm in the wrong. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. Because he's reluctant when she starts. And then he gets into it. He's like, all right, I guess we're doing this. And then he feels the scars on her tummy and realizes it's Mystique.
Which is weird, because
during the last one,
surely as a shapeshifter she'd be able to.
But I think that's Mystique doing it on purpose because this scene makes no fucking sense any way you look at it. Because then he pulls away and she's like, "What's it? You left a scar burns whatever more than most or some shit."
Yeah.
And then he says I don't want this. And she says, "What do you want?" And she transforms into Storm. And then into Rogue, which he reacts to, and then back into Jean, and he pushes her away, and she turns into herself, and he goes, what do you really want? As she turns into Stryker. And then he says, get out. And she turns back into herself and leaves. And that's the scene. What they think they're saying with this scene is, you don't know why you're doing this. Are you motivated by love? Are you motivated by revenge? What that says is nothing. It says nothing. It has no point. But what it comes across as is, do you want to fuck your underage Texas girlfriend? Little Rogue? Do you want to fuck her? No?
Yeah.
How about this man in a suit who put metal inside you? You want to fuck him?
It's weird.
It's really weird. If you look at it as Mystique trying to sort of get in there to deliver this message of what do you really want to him, it's like she's got a weird way about it. Also, why does she care? Why does she care about Logan at all? Why is she trying to frazzle him before the assault? That doesn't make any sense. And if you look at it more as, oh no, she was just trying to get off with him. So Mystique was trying to rape Wolverine?
Yeah, probably.
What is this?
I feel like it was a bit of trying to get into his skin and a sort of stab to get him on side.
But then she doesn't. They don't follow up on that. There's no sort of moment during the Sting operation to get into Alkali Lake where she's sort of like. It would make narrative sense if then he and her were in a situation where he could get his revenge or save the day and take care of his friends. And she's there for that moment. Do you know what I mean? And it's a real kind of what's more important. They don't like, because he has that moment. He has that moment kind of when he finds Stryker strung up and he's got the kid mutant in his arms, and Stryker's like, "If you come with me, I'll tell you everything you've ever wanted to know about the past you don't remember. Or you can go with that creature in your arms and, you know, be forever ignorant." Yeah. If Mystique was present for that moment, the tent scene would make sense as a narrative through line, because you'd be like, "Oh yeah, she's the physical embodiment of like the choice he has to make. She's the devil on his shoulder."
It wouldn't surprise me if that was originally a idea that they then dropped, because in all three of these films, more in the third and the first, I think, but in all three of these films, there are moments where they've got stuff that was clearly part of another plot line that was either dropped in the edit or dropped during filming, and then they don't
drop this scene because it's the scene where they got all of their lead actresses to like do this little bit, and they're like, "We don't want to drop it. We've put the work in, and it's a cool scene, but it's like without the other part like to it in the ongoing story, it makes no sense, and it's just."
But I think that's a fairly common thing in all three of these films. You see scenes like that, which kind of feel like they're from a storyline that was dropped or from a subplot that was dropped.
And also that random cutaway reaction shot of his face when she turns into Rogue, and it's just a cutaway, like 2-second shot of him going like, "Huh," like that. You know that was in pickups and reshoots. You know that they watched it in the edit and they went, like, "Oh, hang on, Rogue's like 16, isn't she? Maybe we should get a shot of him looking disgusted."
Yeah, and also she's like his surrogate daughter, so maybe we shouldn't. Yeah,
it's weird. It's a weird scene.
Yeah,
I remember when I was younger, I was like, "Oh, Mystique's messing with him." And now I'm older, I'm like, "No, what is its purpose? What is the point?" And also, isn't it fucking weird they clearly forgot until afterwards that maybe he shouldn't be sexually attracted to Rogue? Considering this movie also really reveals that Logan's probably 70 or 80. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
It's, I don't know.
Well, they imply that in the first film.
Yeah, it's like he could be as old as you, Professor. To which I always wanted him to turn around and say, "You fucking what, mate?"
No, he may very well be older than you, Professor.
Older than,
and the delivery on it's
what
just
are you trying
weird.
To say? Yeah.
It's almost like I think it was written as a gag, but not delivered. But it's not like
delivered as one. Yeah. Speaking of things that feel like they must be a big joke because it's the only way to cope with it existing. X-Men: The Last Stand comes out in 2006.
After an incredibly troubled production.
Yeah.
Brian Singer
conclusion to this trilogy. Yeah. And I think they were planning it to be the last one, but like you said, behind the scenes.
So what happened was Brian Singer left during pre-production to go and do Superman Returns. James Marsden went with him, although I think they could have had him in both, but they sort of spitefully decided to write him out quite early on. They approached Matthew...
Yeah, because he's not in Superman Returns enough to justify how out of this movie he is. He's in Superman Returns for a total of maybe 20 minutes of screen time, if that, in a 2.5-hour movie.
Yeah. They got Matthew Vaughn on to direct.
Yeah.
But they said, "You've got 18 months. We've got a bunch of conditions we want you to meet while you're making it. We haven't got a finished script." And he was like, "I can't finish the script in time. I don't want to be away from my family," because I think it was after one of his kids had just been born. "I don't want to be away from my family for that long, and I don't think I can do all the things you want me to do with this. I think there's too many restrictions." So they let him go, and then they got Brett Ratner in, and they turned it around from no script to release in 18 months, and it shows. Another big problem is one of the reasons they wanted to get it done so quickly. And one of the reasons that they wanted to, they had so many conditions and restrictions, is they wanted to introduce more characters for more merch. But because of the rush production, they never made a merch line.
Yeah.
So they put a bunch of stuff in this movie to make merch out of, and then never made the merchandise.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, it's like, even knowing that, and not having that in my head when I was watching it, of like, they didn't, because you mentioned this the other day when we were chatting about it, you were like, they introduced them all for merch. So then I watched it after we chatted about that, and I was like, do you know what? I don't think any of that, all of it would have been peg warmers. Because no character looks, aside from Beast, no one looks visually distinct at all. Also,
one more thing about the triple production is Halle Berry had become a big star in between X2 and this. I mean, she was already on the rise, but she became really big in between X2 and this. So she was pushing for top billing, a bigger role.
Yes, she deserved one after all this time. Jesus.
She wanted to fly, and she wanted the most money out of anyone.
Okay, right. Some of those are a bit shitty.
Then Catwoman came out. And Halle Berry had to come begging, hat in hand, to still be in the film.
Wait, they were going to kick her out?
Yeah,
after
I think
Catwoman?
so. I think so.
Well,
not after Catwoman,
after her
but
demands,
after
and then
her
Catwoman.
demands. After her demands,
she made some really... I mean, she definitely deserved more to do.
And she did get to fly.
Yeah. Oh, but I mean, just story-wise, she definitely deserved way more to do. But, like, to be like, I want top billing.
Yeah.
And I want more money than... I don't care what your biggest fee is. I want more than it.
Yeah.
To be like that, and then to get humbled by the release of Catwoman, a terrible movie which she is terrible in.
So how much Storm was going to be involved in this film was up in the air for a while as well.
Wow. And she is in it more, but she's in it as in
she says more
they've
things.
taken all the Wolverine scenes and gone, Storm will also be with him and reply to him.
Because again, early in development, because the script was all over the place. At one point during the script for this, I think maybe even into shooting, her and Logan were supposed to be in a sexual relationship.
Is that because she'd worked with Hugh on Swordfish since then, so like they had a bit more chemistry? No, like, screw it, we can do that. We could play that.
I'm not sure if it's a more recent thing, but there is definitely not a like romance, but a friends with benefits relationship between Storm and Wolverine in the comics at times.
Yeah.
They're not like a romantic
I've
item.
definitely read at least one story where like it begins with them getting out of bed and being like,
yeah, they're not like a romantic item.
We should probably go teach the kids now. Yeah.
But they're very good friends who occasionally fuck.
Yeah. I mean, hey, they are teachers.
Yeah.
Two incredibly sexy teachers who live in a boarding school, don't get much free time outside of saving the world and teaching. Let them fuck. Why not?
Yeah.
So the basic plot of X3 is after her sacrifice to save everybody at Alkali Lake in X2, Jean Grey reemerges, and we learn that not only was her power developing, but a split personality that had been locked away in her head is returning.
I should also point out
to the growing power. Oh, go on.
That this film starts with two flashbacks, which both end very abruptly.
Oh, we'll get into that. But yes. And meanwhile, the government, someone outside of the government, because they don't make this interesting enough for me to even freaking really remember it, but like Worthington Laboratories, Worthington Industries or whatever, who dabble in chemicals and medicines and this, that, and the other, have developed outside of the government, but totally with secret government approval from some people, a cure for the mutant condition, which is so kind of brilliantly hypocritical because they have derived it from a mutant.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's that whole thing of like, we don't need them, but if we could use one to do this, then that'd be great. Who is essentially their version of Leech, who is a kid who his power as he's come into them is that he suppresses the mutant gene whenever anyone's nearby.
Yeah.
So they are synthesizing a chemical, a medicinal, a concoction that will do that. And we learn by the end of the movie that it doesn't necessarily work based on how powerful the mutant in question is.
In the long term, it doesn't.
Yeah, and we definitely know it doesn't because Rogue gets the cure in this movie, and then the next time we see this version of Rogue again in Days of Future Past, she's Rogue. She's full-on Rogue. So, like, clearly didn't fucking work. And this movie decides to sequel bait at the very end by showing sad old man Magneto playing chess by himself, and the chess piece moving, like, the tiniest fraction before we cut to credits. So it's like, okay, so the cure doesn't work if you're like a... Because in this movie they established that there are like level 1, 2, and 3 mutants, and 3's like the high end. And then Magneto's in like a category above that, and he's one of the very few that's sort of seen as a, you know, really powerful mutant. Like level 1 mutation is sort of a simple ability or change.
Yeah.
Level 2's slightly higher than that. Level 3 is they could be a threat. Like it's a power. It's a superpower of some kind. And then you've got Magneto as like, oh no, that dude could change the tectonic plates if he put his mind to it.
Yeah.
Like we should probably be careful with him. And Jean, it turns out, is higher than that. So Magneto kind of doesn't... He doesn't manipulate her at first.
He eggs her on.
Kind of does. Magneto's motivations and techniques in this movie change every fucking scene. It's really weird.
Yeah.
Like, he knows by goading Jean in her childhood home again when she goes back, he knows that that's going to result in the death of Charles. And yet he's surprised by it and genuinely mourns his friend after it, despite him being absolutely the one who pulls that trigger.
Well, he seems to have accepted it as a necessary sacrifice later on.
Yeah, it's... I don't know. McKellen stops Magneto from being unwatchable in this because it's McKellen. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He knows how to be compelling. We've already memed it in this podcast, but the whole "you will not be safe, your family will not be safe, your children will not be safe" is brilliant and crap at the same time, but his delivery's brilliant. So it's like entertaining. But Magneto, this is the first film in which I don't get Magneto's endgame outright because he becomes a military despot. He becomes a psychotic villain in this film. Like,
which is sort of a reversal
you understand
of how
him
he
in
is.
1 and 2.
It's a reversal of how he is in the comics.
Yeah,
Because in the comics he starts as a military despot, and then later on they introduce the Holocaust backstory.
Yeah,
and that makes it
this,
make little sense.
In this, he's like, we are all going to fight for this cause, and then in the final fight, where he could probably defeat all the soldiers very quickly himself, he's like, we'll let the pawns go first. And
it's weird.
Sends mutants in that he's recruited and radicalized, sends them in to die. Now, there are organizations here in the real world that do that, and they are horrible.
It's
and
called the United States and UK government.
I think this is a commentary on that, but it's forgetting that for the last 2 movies, that's not what he's like.
No.
Now I get that he's pushed to an extreme. He sees that they've developed a so-called cure, and he's like, they want to use it and they want to nerf you all. They want to stop your rightful ascension to being the higher race on this planet. So we have to turn it against him. But like, Mystique gets shot with the cure, saving his life, and he's grateful for that, and then abandons her because he's like, you're not one of us anymore. And it's like, I'm sorry, I get what you're going for here, but you just spent an entire movie prior to this showing that you two are ride or die. This Magneto from the first 2 movies would be in this situation and have conflicting feelings about it.
I think McKellen plays it like he's got conflicting feelings, but there's nothing in the script to sort of anchor it.
Yeah, again, the actors carry the weight of this.
You can see him doing it, but I think for some people who don't respond to...
and again, same with Rebecca Romijn, who at this point is Rebecca Romijn. Like, she also is playing it that way too. Like, she can't fucking believe that he's about to leave her. After everything they've done, after everything she's done. And it's kind of cool that she's the one who fucks him over afterwards by giving away his hideout locations.
Yeah.
But I would have maybe liked more to her story.
Like maybe a scene of that.
Yeah, instead of just the president going, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned.
This happens a couple of times with a few characters in this film where they just sort of disappear from the story for a while, and then come back without any sort of checking on him in the meantime, and something really important has just happened. It happens with Rogue, where she just
the most
disappears from the film.
The most Anna Paquin gets to do is look out of windows at Bobby and Kitty talking to each other and being like, "Oh, why I oughta." Like we don't get the emphasis on. Like I said, if you just skip from the first film to this one, I would get why Rogue would be like, they can take away this thing for this, because she sees her power in the first film as a curse, as a burden. In the second film, we don't really learn anything about how she feels about her power anymore. But you could do some
interesting character stuff with like her talking to other mutants who want the cure. Sort of sharing their experiences, like sort of us getting to see the effect that the cure is having on mutants outside of the X-Men.
Yeah.
But we don't get it. She just turns up at the end and she's taken the cure.
And it's meant to be
which
like...
again, was up in the air. During production, they filmed both versions of it.
I would have preferred she not take it, because that would be a bolder statement.
I believe the anecdote, whether this is true or not, is that they took a poll on set over which version to use.
Oh Jesus! So in the end, she takes it because of the narrative the film gives us. She takes it not to live a normal life per se. She talks about that a bit, but they don't show in the movie the difficulties of her power in her day to day. She takes it because she wants to snog Bobby before Bobby snogs Kitty.
Yeah,
which is really shallow and really Kitty,
who's come out of nowhere. And doesn't really get much development.
Yeah, sort of. She's been here before, but this is your new Kitty, and she's got lines now.
Yeah.
And she says stuff. And she's just here, and I think that Shawn Ashmore and Ellen Page play the skating scene, like the scene where he's trying to cheer her up. They don't play that grotesquely, like, kind of like, oh, maybe they're gonna. They play it brilliantly innocently, which could... really, obviously the teenage burgeonings of like, affection for another human being of a gender I'm attracted to. This is interesting. But they don't play it as like, these two are definitely going to get together behind Marie's back. They don't play it that way.
No.
Which makes her paranoia even... Like, I think maybe it's just because I'm done with that trope in teen movies. I'm so bored of it as a storyline.
Maybe.
Like, for Christ's sake.
I mean, if there's one superhero genre that it fits in, it's X-Men.
Yeah, but again, it's also that thing if they don't build to it.
Yeah,
they're like, we need the soap opera element, but we're not going to work for it. Same with the Jean and Logan stuff in this.
One of the problems that I have with this film is that so much happens so quickly, but none of it lands. None of it has enough weight to it.
Yeah,
it's just things that are happening. And yeah, you can say, oh well, all plots are things that just happen. Yeah, but they've got to have some sort of emotional resonance with you, and the characters are so bland in this, and so everyone's sort of devoid of any.
Famke Janssen is trying her hardest, to make this Jean, who is fighting with another voice in her head and like a power that she wants to connect with, but she doesn't know whether or not it's right because her mentor has essentially manipulated her for all these years, like. You know, she's got a lot to deal with. The script doesn't give her that. No. Like, it's all down to Famke to try and make it interesting.
The characters are so poorly defined. Apparently, this got cut to the bone. Vinnie Jones has been out there saying that his Juggernaut...
Oh, yes, of course.
His Juggernaut was written as more than, like, dumb muscle. Like, he actually had a bit more character to him, but they cut everything. It's
you get
a terrible
sense
design
of it in his first lines, where he's like, you're going to get me out of this thing, I really need to pee. Like, it's sort of... It's refreshing. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, he's a bit of, you get a bit of character in that one line. Yeah. You're like, all right.
Apparently, there was quite a bit more, but they cut it right back. Yeah.
He barely speaks after that until that scene.
Yeah, again, like, he's just there. The Juggernaut bitch moment is awful. The Danger Room sequence is visually nice, but character-wise, I don't like Logan's disaffection. It doesn't sit weird. Right.
Like, I'd get it if he was, because they then say that he's a supply teacher.
Yeah.
But so you could kind of have some comedy with that, of Logan has finally been put in a position of authority as a teacher and he doesn't really know how to take it seriously. And that this movie, that could be his arc, this film. Like, his storyline is wrapped up as of number 2. His, like, I want to find out who I am and where I came from. That's wrapped up at the end of number 2. He's like, doesn't matter. I'm here for these kids. So in this movie, give Logan the arc of like, no, but what does it really mean to take on that responsibility? Like, you've not thought this through. And him and Storm could be about like, you know, the kids are learning to be, you know, better students and better people. And the exact same thing could be parallel going on with Logan and Storm, like holding his hand.
Storm teaching him how to be a teacher. That could be an interesting character arc for both of them.
But instead, the movie's like, no, we have to be a Dark Phoenix film. So that has to intrude on any development. This
film isn't interested in narrative and story. It's interested in plot. And plot's happening. Yeah. Like, things happen, but they don't... It might as well be a slideshow of... like still images for all that it matters, for all the emotional connection I have to it, and that's someone who really likes these characters conceptually.
Yeah, your character development will not be safe. Your narrative arcs will not be safe.
It's just, and you know, when you look at the trouble production of it, there was so much that was scripted and dropped, stuff that was dropped during filming. Like Gambit was supposed to be in this, and it was supposed to be like a love quadrangle between Kitty, Gambit, Bobby, and Rogue, whether for better or worse.
So he would have been a student, presumably. Then he would have been another kid at the school.
Yeah.
I'm glad they didn't introduce him because, like, they'd already done sort of the bad boy student in Pyro, who again is sort of like, I think Pyro's used well in this. Again, he's a dickhead, and Magneto's kept him because it's that kind of thing of, I radicalise one of Charles's students.
he's just a greasy little shit, though, isn't he?
He's a petty trophy for Eric. Like, that's what he is.
Yeah. He's just generally better.
He also is quite destructive, so it's like, you can see why he's kept him around. Like,
we get
if you're not going to have Sabretooth at your right-hand side anymore, have the dude who can control flames. Like, fair enough.
We do get a couple of fire and ice showdowns between him and Bobby, and we finally get full iced-up Iceman. But like many of the visuals in this film, it looks shit.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I know that this movie is, 13, 14 years old, but it's not that the effects haven't aged well, it's the effects never looked good in the first place, because I remember this coming out and being like, this looks awful.
The visual effects are the shit ones. The practical effects look so much better in this.
Yeah, the
Angel's wings. When you see those things in shot, they look fantastic. Kelsey Grammer's entire makeup as Beast.
He's great in this.
Yes.
He's like the best thing about the film. Like, whenever Kelsey Grammer's on screen, you're like,
McCoy.
Boom.
Yeah, we've taken McCoy. He's not a mad scientist member of the X-Men. He's a politician. Yeah. He's there for mutant rights. And it also is suggesting that the Xavier School isn't as recent as Rogue joining. Like, this has indeed been going on for decades. Hank is one of the first people to either graduate or teach at this school. And it's like...
maybe both. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. That's kind of cool. It's world building. It's like, oh yeah, this shit's been going on for ages. And it really kind of aids the fact that our Magneto and our Xavier are older men. Like... in the comics, they're always kind of putting that weird thing of, oh yeah, they're old men, but I mean, he's buff as fuck, and we always draw Xavier looking a bit younger. I mean,
to be fair, Magneto has been de-aged, re-aged, cloned, killed multiple times, and so is Xavier. So who fucking knows at this point? And in current X-Men comics, there's no such thing as death for them. So.
But like when you have a Magneto who, you know, and I say this with all due respect to the wonderful Ian Mckellen, when you have a Magneto who's got turkey neck, like, you need to establish that maybe these dudes have been around for a very long time, and like, you can take advantage of that and go, yeah, Hank McCoy used to be a pupil at this school, like, and now look at him, he's clearly in like his 50s, he's on the US Senate as a mutant representative, like. He's been in politics for the last 20 years. And
he can still fucking throw down, though.
And he'll still throw... I love that. There comes a time when... oh, you get the point! Like, Kelsey Grammer's having a ball in this.
Yeah.
And he looks great. And it's so upsetting that this is the best Beast ever looks in a movie.
Yeah.
When technology advances in the future appearances of the character.
I do not care for the Nicholas Hoult Beast.
And every iteration of how he looks, like everyone. I'm not just talking about big old kitty cat one, like, because that was to reflect the comics at the time, wasn't it? And it just doesn't quite work. But no, Beast looks great in this. His practical makeup. Colossus looks all right in this. Like, they've kind of nailed the the metal effect a little bit more.
I think it's a bit too floaty and shiny for me.
Oh, true, but like they're consistent with it, is what I mean.
Yeah.
Like throughout the whole film, they're like, no, this is how he looks. It doesn't look like the effect. It doesn't look like the effect is aged. It looks like you said it was already bad, but they stick to it. There's a really nice moment in the Danger Room sequence where like the rubble's flying at him, flying at Rogue. So Colossus runs over and places his fingers on her forehead.
Yeah,
and she
so
turns metal.
Yeah,
which is like that's
neat.
That's a good use of the powers. That's really good, and it's kind of the only time Rogue uses her fucking powers in this movie. It's really weird that she like doesn't whip them out again, does she? Like ever in this film?
No. Because
So
she's
strange.
scared of him.
That's the thing. Make a point of like, oh, she wants to like be quote unquote normal, but you don't show her life being screwed over by them in this movie. By showing it, you just rely on your viewer to apparently know that's the case. It's weird.
One of the odd things I noticed in
but
this,
you should always treat your sequels like Stan Lee always said about comics. Every comic is someone's first.
Yeah,
that's why there's a recap page. That's why you should always write it with the knowledge that maybe someone picked this up during. Let's not spell everything out, but let's at least know that some of our readers may have just picked up this issue and you want them to go, oh, I get it. Oh,
context.
Yeah, and this film sort of like just hopes that you remember the previous two movies to fill in some gaps. It's weird.
Or sort of hopes that you don't remember the previous two movies to sort of explain some character inconsistencies.
Should we talk about new mutants introduced into this movie who are kind of wasted or thrown away?
Not even named. In some cases,
he's utilized well, but it's kind of a waste of an interesting character.
Yeah, he's utilized once.
Yeah, freaking Psylocke appears in the church, and then you see her a couple of times in crowd shots. She's got purple hair and looks worried. That's her entire contribution to the movie.
That's it.
You have a version of Marrow, kind of, based off of, what's the dude who was in X-Men Evolution?
Spike.
So you kind of have Spike in the movie. Then you've got a lady who's super fast. Is she named? Like
Not that I remember. Not on screen.
And then her friend is... Because that's the thing, her friend's got a tattoo over her eye.
See who they're credited as.
That kind of looks like Psylocke's like face marking, just not coloured in. And they even make a point of when Magneto rocks up, they're like, "Where's your mark?"
One of them is supposed to be...
Is that a thing? Is that what mutants do now? They get tattoos to show they're a mutant? And Magneto's like, "Hey, look, motherfucker, here's my branding from Auschwitz. Like, piss off. I'm not getting inked again."
One of them's supposed to be Callisto.
Really?
According to the cast list on IMDb, one of them is supposed to be Callisto. Arclight, I think, is the fast one. Is she meant
to be the one who reads... Like, she's essentially Cerebro in this movie. Like, she's like, yes, I sense a mutant. It's like, okay.
Oh, Ken Leung, the porcupine guy, is supposed to be Kid Omega? What?
Really?
That is...
Which mutant is dude who sprouts poisonous bone chunks from his body that he then pulls off and leaves holes in himself meant to be? Because that's like the guy who gets an extended fight with Wolverine in the forest.
Oh, that's Spike.
Like,
that's Spike.
That's Spike. Oh, that's meant to be Spike.
Yeah.
The one who Wolverine guts.
Yeah.
Even though at the time he was a fan favourite character in a very well done animated series.
Yeah. I think
they nailed the soap opera and teenage aspects of this world way better than these movies ever did.
I think they've just put random names on these characters without any sort of... Ali Ermey does a drill sergeant voice.
Yes,
you never see him on screen.
It was really confusing.
I listened to him like, that's Ali Ermey, but he just does voiceover.
It's weird. It's like suddenly Full Metal Jacket, Toy Story takes over, and you're like, what is happening? Who's saying these lines? We won't mount up the cure. We will do that. I was like, what the fuck is going on? It's weird. It's so weird.
Yeah, it's a mess.
Oh god. Are there any great things in this? Are there any things that are like, oh, that's kind of cool? The visual effects of Xavier being ripped to shreds in the telekinetic storm in the house looks good.
That's neat.
But it feels really weird because Xavier, I mean, it's very true to comics, I guess, but Xavier goes out with us going, so he was a prick then?
Yep.
Oh. Okay. Which is weird because I think the movies need to pick one. And I say this going forward as well with what the MCU do. They need to pick one. Is he?
I like the idea.
Is he mutant Dumbledore, or is he Machiavellian, like manipulating little motherfucker who appears to be the good guy? Like, you need to pick one, I think, going forward, because I don't want that story to be the focus of another X-Men story now. I want any ongoing adaptations to focus on mutant characters who deserve to have their stories told and who haven't had a chance, i.e. your Storms, your Kitty Prydes. Like, focus on them now. Give us a story where Scott is one of the main characters and is an actual character. Like, that would be
doesn't
nice.
just get killed off straight away for no reason.
Or his entire contribution to the movie summed up in the fact that he says, get the fuck away from her. Like, but again, we'll go into that later.
Hate it. So, because this is the thing, because they kill off Scott, and the sort of the relationship between Jean and Logan is so sort of perfunctory. Him killing her has no
I love you
sort of depth.
Do you?
No, do you? I mean, do you? Like, even in two other films and this, like,
but also
really?
he's only known Jean for about a month. He's only actually known her for about a month. The events of X-Men take place over the course of a week. The events of X2, which is when he first comes back from being away, take place over a weekend, and like she's mostly in Germany for that.
I think this definitely
It's
implies
really
that
weird.
there's-
It's assuming that you as a viewer are like, oh yeah, Logan and Phoenix, yeah. It's like, yeah, but look at the 3 movies back to back, like we've done this week. They've known each other for about a week, total time. It's like, where is this grand sort of like, look, this is where we first met, but the other way around. Why are you reminiscing about this like it's some fond memory? It happened like a fucking month ago? What?
Yeah, it's weird. But it must be longer, though, because the kids
Can't
have
be.
grown.
Think about how long he's known her. Oh, no, in terms of, like, since she died, sure, but, like, in terms of, like, their relationship, you see it all on film.
I think there's supposed to be a bigger gap between the first and second films.
Yeah, and he's away. He's not at the mansion.
Yeah. No, you're right.
They know
it
each
makes
other
no
for, like,
fucking
a
sense.
week, and suddenly she's the love of his life. And he will carry, again, we'll talk about it later, and he will carry that, like, pining for his love into another movie, and it will make no sense.
It's not good, though, is it?
It's weird. It makes him seem really fucking, like, just petty. Like, it makes it seem like Logan's entire romantic, like, idea of romantic relationships and getting to know a human being is just based on whether or not they make his dick hard, and that's it. And it's like, okay. And same with Jean. It makes it look like her entire romantic sort of development is just, oh, he gives me a whap. I guess I better get that mop and bucket, ladies and gentlemen. Are we current? Are we current now? Are we current because we referenced whap?
We've never been current.
Okay.
We've never been current.
I just got to make sure that we mention it at least once so that we get the algorithm, right? That's how it works, right? But do you know what I mean? The X-Men: The Last Stand is a movie you come out of going, yeah, it's alright, I guess. And then the more you think about it, the more you go, actually, no, it is shit. But it's not. I think the biggest crime is it's not abysmal. And I know that's a weird thing to say as a downside. It's bad that it's not worse. But if it was worse, we'd at least kind of have a Batman and Robin kind of feeling for the whole thing.
It's mediocre at best, and it doesn't have the good grace to be fun about it.
Yeah, we've said this before. The worst a movie can be is boring.
And I think...
this movie skirts around boring quite closely. It's not good, and it's not bad.
No.
Like, it's in that middle ground.
I think this is it. I think none of this original trilogy of X-Men films are particularly fun. But X-Men and X-Men 2 at least are interesting, whereas X3 is boring. It's boring because there's lots of stuff. There's lots of stuff happening. But none of it matters. None of it's interesting.
Including one of the most iconic storylines in X-Men and in 70s comics, and it fluffs it. And is Kinberg credited as one of the writers for this?
This is Kinberg and Zach Penn.
So Simon Kinberg clearly has a lot of love and affection for the Dark Phoenix saga, but based on what we know going forward and his contribution to the script of this...
It's probably all he's read.
Yeah, he probably read it when it came out
Yeah.
And hasn't revisited it to remember why it's great. Because this takes a really cool idea, tries to find a way to early 2000s superhero movie truncate it, but kind of fluffs it anyway.
But then
and then he gets a shot to do it again later.
Also,
and
next
fluffs
to
it again.
Also, next to Cure storyline from Joss Whedon's Astonishing X-Men run.
Yeah. Yeah, and
which then was only a couple of years old.
Like at the end, it's just, I guess there's no cure now.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
But it doesn't really explore the sort of ramifications of that. It doesn't.
Also, we don't get a villain with weird, like, little whiskers coming out of his face like we do in that.
No weird alien villains from, what's it called?
Fucked up Whisker Boys.
What's the planet called that it's from? It's something really stupid. It's like Bloodworld or something stupid like that.
I fired Charisma Carpenter for being pregnant here.
Probably. Oh, yeah, that was it. Joss Whedon.
Doesn't it suck when people who write really good stuff or make things you like turn out to be absolute fucking monsters? It sucks so hard.
Yeah. But yeah, X3 is just, it's messy, and it looks cheap because it was rushed. It's basic things, like there's some really dodgy green screen in there. Particularly like when you cut into things like reaction shots during the bridge sequence and stuff like that. These really, really odd moments.
Yeah, just that entire sequence. Just like...
The editing's choppy.
There's one charming moment in that entire scene. It's when like they're walking past the cars on the bridge. That Magneto just looks at that woman who's panicking.
Yeah, she does the lock, yeah.
She locks her car and he just sort of smirks slightly and keeps walking. It's like, that's a nice moment.
Yeah.
But also, you spent this whole film telling us that Magneto would kill her without a second's thought, so...
Yeah. It's lost in mediocre crap, really.
Yeah.
The editing's choppy. It's things like the first two opening scenes, the first two opening flashbacks just end really abruptly. Particularly the Jean one, where just like, he says a sentence and it immediately cuts to the Warren Worthington flashback. Angel is completely wasted.
Oh yeah, I feel really bad for that actor. I feel really bad for that actor.
It looks great. Ben Foster looks great.
But it's like when he comes off of the stretcher and he stands forward and you see for the first time adult Warren Worthington and his wings spread out.
Yeah, he looks incredible.
It looks incredible, except his direction is odd because he gets off the stretcher and immediately takes hero pose. Yeah, like, what's happening? What is this? And then, the practical effect of the wings spreading looks fucking amazing.
Yeah.
The opening bit where he's cutting them off as a kid is like, that's interesting. Where are we going to go with this?
We're going to go nowhere, because all that happens with him after that is he turns up in the middle of a meeting that the faculty are having at the Xavier School, and he's like, the faculty and Bobby and Kitty, and he's like, don't worry that Xavier's dead. I'll fund it. I'll fund the school, and then he turns up.
And I'll also hook you guys up with a funeral director who makes like some sick ass big decorative tombstones, and we'll get really them to you, like, super quick.
Yeah, like fucking bust of like profile of Professor Xavier on this fucking carved tombstone. Yeah, all right,
Maury McTaggart in and out, wasted.
And then he turns up to
in and out, wasted.
To save his dad at the end, and that's kind of it. Yeah, Bolivar Trask, Bill Duke. Wonderful Bill Duke, just kind of
wonderful Bill Duke, just there. And as we're going forward, we'll obviously talk about it, but it's hilarious that the continuities get so muddled after this point.
There must have been a pretty big time skip between X2 and X3 because it's a different president.
Well, I mean, his term could have ended between.
Yeah, it could have been an election year. But like,
yeah, true.
Yeah, it's just. It just doesn't hold together well. It's not like atrociously bad. It's not X-Men Origins Wolverine train wreck, like, because that at least would be fun.
If you said to me you have to pick one to watch, X-Men: The Last Stand or X-Men Origins Wolverine, I'd pick X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yeah, because we would have a laugh. Stupid.
We would have an absolute laugh watching it. Yeah,
it's one of those films we watch it and like, what? How did they do it this badly? But with X-Men 3, it's just like, oh, it's the most dull, like, studio mandated related fucking production bullshit that made this as dull as it is. It's not. Yeah, it's difficult to even get that worked up about. It's just disappointing.
It's just shit. And also, like, I'd come out 2 years after Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
We were 2 years from Iron Man at this point.
Yeah.
We'd had Batman Begins. Like, it's absolutely, like, sort of one. I mean, it's also the same year as Blade Trinity, so it's in good company in terms of shit comic book movies.
Yeah, but again, Blade Trinity is almost so bad it's good.
Almost. And also, Blade Trinity was the pilot. Was the pilot for one element of the next film in this series that we will talk about the next time we hit up these retrospectives. But I think it's quite right that we're not doing these concurrently, because fuck me, I need a break from the X-Men.
I need a break, yeah. Yeah. Also, I assume you were watching these on Blu-ray. I watched them on Disney Plus. Disney Plus streaming has some problems.
Oh yeah, that weird moment where the sound carries on, but the visuals stop for a second and then pick up. Like,
there's just, particularly in X2 and X3, there's moments where the frame rate just goes to shit for no reason. I can't imagine why, because I don't have that problem on Netflix or Amazon Prime. I don't have that problem with any of the other stuff, but it's just this weird sort of stuttering and.
You notice it more on the films than you do on the TV shows. Because on the TV shows, it's momentary, and then you're finished within half an hour.
I didn't really notice it in the first X-Men film, but particularly in X2 and X3. Like, in the action sequences, just the frame rate going to shit, and I don't know why. Because it's not like streaming HD video isn't possible on my connection. Like, Netflix and Amazon Prime handle it just fine. I don't understand why Disney are having trouble with it, considering they've got so much fucking money to throw at it. But maybe it's just a PS4 thing.
Maybe it's Disney Plus trying to subtly make you hate the Fox X-Men movies even more.
Oh, yeah.
So that when their take comes out, you're like, oh, this is how it should be done. It'll be in 4K, and it'll look crisp as you like. The X-Men Trilogy, ladies and gentlemen. They were made. And we have them to thank for, you know, if you love the current superhero movie climate, these movies are part of that you know, warm-up. They are part of it. Like you said, the first one, along with Blade and Spider-Man, is the reason why we are where we are. It's just a shame that, unlike, say, Superman the movie, you can't go back, watch it, and go, yep! Holds up. It's like, yeah, I have notes.
I wanted to mostly hold up, but 3 absolutely does not. Does not at all.
Is it the worst in the series? You'll have to find out. No, it's definitely not the worst. The worst is yet to come.
You lucky people.
Next time we talk about these movies, we will be diving into X-Men Origins Wolverine, one of the many X-Men Origins movies they made after that. Wait, hang on, just check my notes.
Nope.
X-Men First Class and The Wolverine.
So that's going to be a real mixed bag.
Yeah, and also a weird thumbnail, because this thumbnail is going to show a little mix of the trilogy, but next time I'm like, shit, I guess I've got to find a load of pictures of Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
So just show it to a thumbnail.
Shouldn't be too hard.
Huge jacked man. We'd say, what are your thoughts on the X-Men franchise? Let us know. But actually, no. Based on when this is coming out, we can ask. We'll find out next week. BigDamnContact@gmail.com.
Yes, BigDamnContact@gmail.com, and we'll save him for the next X-Men episode.
Oh, beefy boy.
We'll probably do before the end of the year.
I imagine so. So make sure to title your email X-Men. Put it in the subject so we'll know which one it is, and we can separate them for our next X-Men chinwag. Tell us about the trilogy, and hey, if you want to get ahead, give us your thoughts on X-Men Origins, X-Men First Class, and the Wolverine. Let us know. The Wolverine. BigDamnContact@gmail.com. You can also hit us up anytime on Twitter @BigDamnCast. You can watch Matthew streaming with his beautiful face and nimble fingers.
My beautiful face.
Twitch.tv/BigDamnStream, and all of our shit goes on YouTube. Big Damn channel. I was going to say contact, but that's not true. Big Damn channel on YouTube. You can see all of our stuff. Look at it. And for the love of God, go away now and watch a superhero movie that won't make you angry. Like Steel. That'll do. Go watch Steel, everyone.
Yeah, if you really want to giggle.
Shut
Here he is.